Let's go!
Welcome
Gamer,
to the
let's
episode
go.
79 Plat Chat Overwatch. Woo! 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 Woo!
They say on YouTube that within the first 5 seconds, a viewer has decided whether or not to continue based on the audio involved.
Goodbye to 50% of you. You're gone. Jaws is joining us once again. He's graciously graced us with his presence.
Your grace.
And we got everybody else as well, who's normally on the show. And we're changing things
Jaws
up,
is just part of
actually.
Plat Chat now. He's like a mainstay.
Yeah.
Not really, but almost.
Thanks,
What else was I talking about? Oh yeah, we've actually got news to talk about this week.
The drought is over.
Yes,
Much like California, we're now flooded.
Is California flooded?
Yeah, it's under
No.
ocean.
What?
Oh, yeah.
It's the sea
I'm on the
levels have
third
rised.
floor, bro. Second floor's gone.
Is it
Yeah.
raining at the moment in Cali?
Oh,
No.
it's tipping it down every single day.
It did rain like 5 times in 2 weeks. It was crazy.
That's good though.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't get much rain in Cali.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
it's a
was
sign of
wild.
the end of times.
Yeah. The state
speaking
is
of
actually
Cali,
green now.
We're talking about the latest Californian team that's been announced on Weibo.
Oh,
The Los Angeles Valiant.
Oh,
that's
cool.
classic Californian
Yes, the
local
classic
website.
Local
Weibo.
team using, the local channels to announce their team to the American audiences. Now,
By the way, have they announced it yet on Twitter?
when this is posted, maybe.
I'm gonna have a
Because
look.
but no. From the point of which we're recording, they have not announced it on Twitter. They've only announced it on Weibo.
What is going on?
Yeah, we're actually going to discuss the Los Angeles Valiant in this episode. Instead of doing a separate team preview, we're gonna talk about a team now because they've announced their full Chinese roster, and it's given me.
Valiant hasn't tweeted in a month.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just
I know.
February
Yeah, I-
20th.
month.
I don't think they have anyone managing the account.
The
don't
organization looks like they're on the way out of esports, and this roster was just a middle finger to the fucking scene.
Yeah.
It's so unfortunate because as well, it's not like the. I agree with the sentiment that you should never blame the players that are picked up, right? Like the focus of the distaste around Valiant shouldn't go towards the players, but some of these players as well are just. They shouldn't have been picked up for this situation. It's not even like the best that you could make. Like the fucking Crystal and a player that hasn't played since 2018. It's actually just a fucking joke.
Yeah.
It's a bad joke.
It gives me nostalgia to season 1 in a certain sense,
Yeah.
where we saw
Yeah, a
the
little bit.
weaknesses of the Overwatch buy-in system come to light with the
Yeah.
Shanghai Dragons. And it's
Right.
unfortunate, really, because it just all it does is showcase the worst aspects of the system that we exist in with the Overwatch League, where there's no relegation, teams
Yeah.
can't fall down. It's literally based off of every team wanting to be involved into a certain degree and like taking it as equally as seriously as one another. And when you have one team that doesn't, it brings the whole thing down.
Yeah,
honestly,
it does.
to an
It
extent,
does.
because the
Yeah.
team owner, I guarantee you, the other team owners are not happy about this entire situation whatsoever. Like,
No.
you don't want anything that's going to be harming the competitive integrity of the Overwatch League
Or the reputation either.
and the reputation of it, exactly. And what I'm going to say the Valiant, even though the Valiant as an entity now is like the IGC, they're gone. Like they're trying to exit esports in general. They're trying to go, and this roster has been fielded as essentially. It feels like just a bit of a kick in the teeth, honestly, to Overwatch League
Okay.
fans.
Here's the thing, though, Bren. Okay, here's the thing. Okay, by all accounts, it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that they want to be like this kind of like merch, cool brand kind of thing, like 100 Thieves, Face Clan. Is that correct? That's sort of what I've been reading. The gist I'm
IGC?
getting.
Really? That wasn't my impression. My impression was that they just wanted to get
They
into.
just want to leave.
I thought they were trying to get into service providing. So like
Right.
whether,
Oh.
for example, like what was the product that they kept talking about? It was like they'd gone into internet cafes and they were selling a service to like people that were in internet cafes in Brazil or something. I can't fucking remember, but there was like some product, some service that they had created that I think they were seeing success out of. This is incredibly vague because I've forgotten exactly what the thing was, but I thought they were moving into like service providing for gaming.
Are they selling food in PC bungs?
No, not food. They're not becoming a fucking catering service. Like they're gonna rehire Caribbean Agilities to make snacks for everybody.
Big snacks, yeah, snack time.
Yeah, I don't know I don't think they're trying to become like a streetwear merch brand because
Okay, yeah.
Bro, I mean, you need a good reputation for that.
Yeah, you do.
And branding and stuff.
So I'm reading a VentureBeat article here, and RCL mentions their Gamers Club platform, which is like a Brazilian thing, it seems like. Okay,
that
so
I think is the thing that I was trying to remember but failed.
Yeah.
What is that?
I mean, I just read about it, so I don't know entirely.
Right.
This is one of those parts where it's like, oh, Plat Chat doesn't know what they're talking about. It's like, yeah, because I'm not really into Brazilian esports platforms. But
the main takeaway from this is that the roster's been announced. The players are here. And I want to give a shout out as well to Is Jay a Name on Reddit because they've been doing a lot of this. They've been kind of like almost a mouthpiece of the Chinese scene for the competitive Overwatch subreddit and like that Western side of things, and they've been providing like their own opinion pieces on the players and other stuff, providing that background information, which is quite helpful to try and like get to know this team, especially when it feels like it's almost Frankenstein mess of players playing off roles, players who haven't played the game in years. You got Crystal for some reason. How has he snuck his way in this roster? That is a mystery to me.
What an unbelievable bag getter.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
unbelievable.
We'll go, if we can take a look at the overall roster. I'll start things off by saying that immediately, I'm not going to try and sugarcoat this by saying, well, maybe they can get a win or two.
No.
I don't think they're going to be getting wins. And I think if I was a betting man and I had the capability of putting money on a team going 0-16, I'd put.
This is it, baby.
I would put my grandmother's house on it.
I would say there's better odds. Like it's more likely they don't get a win than them getting like 2 wins.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting one actually, because I feel like they'll probably get a win somewhere, but I think I've still got the mentality of like the old Season 1 schedule where it was so statistically improbable that Shanghai never got a win. I mean, that was like ludicrously improbable that they never got a win when they were still able to get maps here and there, but they could never string it together into 1 out of 40 attempts. But when you only have 16,
it becomes more probable, which
It's
is why
actually-
I would bet
there
my
is
grandmother's
a
house.
very big probability that they're just going to end up with 0, and every other team in the APAC region is rubbing their hands together going, free win, baby, let's go.
I mean, good night.
I think I have had this question in my Twitch chat, though, of people asking me, is this team going to be worse than Season 1 Shanghai Dragons? And I can't get on board with that just yet.
You mean just if you're purely only looking at the teams? Well, comparing Season 1 Shanghai to this team, the Valiant.
Yeah, there's like 2 ways of looking at it, right? You can look at it, are they literally better? Like, would they beat Season 1 Shanghai? Which I think any competent team, like 3 years in the future, should be able to beat Season 1 Shanghai. It would be atrocious if you couldn't, because you have 3 years of extra experience, unless your name is Nevermind, in which case you only have the experience of 2018 because you stopped playing at that point. But
was he still playing solo queue?
I don't know.
He must have been, right? Like, there's no way they're just like, who have you got on your phone book? Oh, I got this old guy that I really liked playing with. Just ring him up, baby.
That's what it feels like. But sorry, the other way of looking at it, with comparing this Valiant to Season 1 Shanghai Dragons, is, are they going to be worse compared to their competition? So Season 1 Shanghai Dragons had an atrociously low map win percentage, but it wasn't literally 0, right? Like, if you fielded an actual Diamond team in the Overwatch League, they would literally go 0. They would not win a single map.
Yeah.
There would be no chance, no hope, nothing. So Season 1 Shanghai Dragons were actually competitive in some of their maps, some of their matches.
Didn't they average like 1 map per series or something?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and there was some series where they came close.
Yeah.
Like this. Yeah. When you think about the overall strength of the Overwatch League in Season 1, which the Shanghai Dragons were in, there were teams where they could, on a day, get a win. And that's what made the statistical probability of them getting 0 wins out of 40 so ridiculous. Was because there were many moments where they could have done that, and the strength of the teams, in some cases, they were just only a little bit above them.
Yeah.
Like in certain cases. In this case, every team is either stepping up or side grading in some manner or form. Yes. The Overwatch League has gotten more competitive this year than I would argue than it has in the entirety of its existence. Yeah. Because you've got teams like the Outlaws who are stepping up, teams like Dallas who are stepping up. I mean, yeah, they're going to be in a different division, but overall, you look at it.
Even
the
APAC region is insane. APAC region is nuts. Dude.
Yes. Yeah. So this team is going to struggle because they're going up against this increased competition. There's less games in the season, and it just feels like, looking at it internally, it's a recipe for disaster. But do you want to continue your point?
I wanted to just pose you guys the question then. Do you agree with that? Do you think that if we discount the idea of them literally being worse than Shanghai Dragons, because they should be better, it's 3 years in the future, do you think they will have a worse record than Shanghai Dragons? They can never go 0-40 because there aren't 40 games. But in terms of like the only valuable metric you could use to compare, in my opinion, is map win percentage, probably.
Sure.
Do you think it's reasonable that they could get a lower map win percentage than Shanghai Dragons in Season 1? Which I think was like 1.5 maps per out of 4, something like that.
Considering Nevermind has probably not seen half the champions or heroes that are in the game now, he probably doesn't know what Echo is. I mean, realistically, yeah, I don't think... I think there is a big possibility that they go even worse than what the Dragons could. Obviously, I'm joking about Nevermind, and there clearly has been small amounts of scouting here and there. You know, I mean, I'm not entirely sure how the pickup process for this team had gone, but I just want to preface it's a joke. Haha, it's funny. You can like the video if you think it's funny. I mean, I can. Being serious though, yeah, the likelihood of them going, 0 and however many maps they do play, yeah, I think that's quite high, because like Bren said, every single year Overwatch League gets better and better, and the game just evolves even more with the amount of heroes getting added in, and the kind of just everybody naturally getting better, as you see in every single game every year. So yeah, they're probably going to go 0 and I don't know how many maps they're going to have to play, but yeah.
The minimum number of maps they'll have to play is 48, right? If they play 16 games and they get 3-0'd each time, then minimum would be 48. And if they're able to... I mean, 0 and 48 would be...
If they go 8 and 40, I will be like, good job.
Right, because I feel like it's incredibly unlikely that they'll actually go 0 and 48.
Yeah.
And Shanghai, if we're saying they got like 1 win out of 4, I guess Shanghai would be punting for like 10 map wins over the course of the season. What are you thinking, Jonathan?
I would bet lower. 100%. Okay, here's the difference maker. For starters, as we already mentioned, the APAC region is nuts. Okay, like if you were making rankings, I guess the second worst team would be like New York, but even then people are like rating New York high because they're like, well, they have tons of young talent that could really pop off. Like I'm not saying that New York is the second worst team, but they reasonably could be, right? And at the same time, like Shanghai, they had those weaker teams in Season 1 to win maps against. They got 2 against the Florida Mayhem on a couple of occasions, I think. Dallas Fuel was a mess. San Francisco Shock was a mess. I mean, there were those opponents where you could get some maps wins in. Who are they going to take maps off? Who? Like on this field? Who? Like are they getting one from New York? Yeah, they could take one from New York. They could take one from maybe, I don't know, Hangzhou. One from Guangzhou. It's so hard.
I have a slightly more positive, optimistic view of it when I look at the Valiant here, where I think that they're likely to have a pretty similar record to the Season 1 Shanghai Dragons, or I don't know, maybe even a tad better, because
they need to play against like the likes of Houston and Paris for that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. The reason that I'm staying optimistic about their chances rather than just writing them off completely is that there are a lot of teams in the APAC region that have made big changes this year, and I think that some of those rosters, it won't lead to consistency, and we don't know exactly like how that'll play out. Like maybe maybe the Guangzhou Charge, for example, at the moment look like they're very good in a rush meta. Maybe they're not going to be as good when it gets to some kind of Pokia meta or like a Genji-based meta. I don't know. Eileen is actually pretty good at that. But maybe the Seoul Dynasty will have like one of those terrible weeks where they just look awful and they don't have a read on the meta at all. Maybe Hangzhou will mismanage their roster and they can squeak map wins away from teams in that kind of way.
Okay, I'm following you. Okay, that is like the narrative of someone who would defend this roster. But I'll ask you a more in-depth question. Who is going to win those maps for them? Rhea? Okay. Crystal? Maybe. You know, there's a couple of good players on this roster with like mechanical skill.
Yeah.
But who?
I think it's just Crystal and Mulanran are the people that
line.
Yeah. And that's because not only is Chinese Overwatch very DPS based when you get down to the like tier 2 teams, because it's the difference between normal Chinese Overwatch and elite Chinese Overwatch is always the like team play and the tank lines, and they're very few and far between, the elite tank players and the teams with great synergy. It's mostly just a shit ton of cracked out DPS players. And I think Crystal definitely fits into that. Like, as much as you can be worried about the baggage that Crystal brings and the PR and the fucking whatever else, the guy was legitimately cracked out when he was in the server. And
sure.
Mulanran's been pretty good as well. He hasn't been amazing, but he's been good enough to be able to take wins on maps sometimes if they find a meta that really suits them and it's all about the DPS. The situations are really few and far between, but if you have minimum 48 chances, some of them are going to work, probably.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I predict they'll win 5 maps all season.
Yeah,
I'm predicting 8.
I'm not going to predict the maps because
Oh.
You want me to?
Yeah.
You don't have to. I'm a piece of shit, and that's why I did it. But you don't have to.
I'm looking at the rest of APAC, and I'm thinking, are they going to get 1?
No, I mean,
because that is statistically that is fucking crazy.
As a map type, they're like absolutely.
Well, it's mental though, because the concept of them not getting a single map is also on the premise that they don't add any additional players. Other teams don't also have their own missteps.
Yes.
Which it's just not going to happen. They're going to probably get a map somewhere along the line.
That's what I'm
saying. But I look
8.
at this roster, and I feel like it has... If you were to make the perfect team that was just gonna implode, this would be it. Because I was looking this shit up. Like, you've got MVM, who hasn't played the game. I want to give everybody the wider context of this team.
Yeah, let's go through
the problems here that this team is going to face. Because the shining lights is going to be the DPS line. Mulanran and Crystal, the 2 individuals as the DPS. Okay, fantastic. They could be good, but we're immediately coming up to an obstacle, and that is Crystal. To those of you who don't know about Crystal, this is a guy who was on the Hangzhou Charge. Sorry, the Hangzhou Spark. Oh my god, a Hangzhou Charge. Hangzhou Spark. And he ended up leaving to go to China using the excuse that his mother was sick, which it ended up being a lie. And he was actually there to see his girlfriend and just decided to ignore all contact from those trying to contact him from the Hangzhou Spark.
Yep. Just mad respect, brother.
So
wasn't that tweet?
Ended up getting into legal battles with the same team.
Yeah, I believe so,
and
I don't know how it was resolved, by
I
the way.
have no idea how this was resolved. But essentially, this guy was just done. He was done in the Overwatch League, in the Overwatch scene. Wasn't going to see... No one was going to give him the time of day. PR nightmare. People don't like him in China. People don't like him over here in like the Western scene and that perspective of it. He's just a bit of a nightmare player. Now, he's a good player. I think he won my award of like the bench player of the year without playing because he was literally he is a good player, but he just doesn't. He's never going to see playtime.
How did you give him that award, man? How did you?
Because he's a bench player. He didn't say playtime, but we know he's good.
But he didn't play. I mean, Super's a bench player, and you gave it to Crystal.
No. But when I say bench player, I mean no playtime.
Right.
Bench. Okay, you know what I mean? No playtime.
Like Joe Meister, a vast level.
So that's issue number 1. Okay. Issue number 2, I think, if we could pull up the roster as well, Kurt. If we take a look at this tank line now. Now they've got 3 tanks. Shocheng and Silver 3, I think, are kind of like mediocre. They've had reasonable performances.
Silver 3, I have watched quite a bit of over the years in Chinese contenders, and I thought he looked all right.
Yeah, that's
he's
what
all
I mean. Like,
he's all right.
He's okay. But then we get to this third player here, NVM, who you may have heard us mentioning. Never mind. Hasn't played the game since 2018 professionally.
Yeah, and
I'm assuming he's installed the game since then and played it.
that's the thing. I don't know anything about it.
Look at this match history. I mean, this isn't updated because I don't think OverGG was following like the Chinese scene at that point when he was playing.
Yeah.
So they're not going to have that information.
Do they have it on Wikipedia?
But
I don't know.
Dude, there is no way he's not been playing Q. There are a lot of players that aren't in Overwatch League that you'd have thought of like retired from the game completely that are playing like NAQ,
Sure.
you know?
He may so he might be on the ladder, but he hasn't played professionally since 2018. And even when he did play in 2018, the man was a walking ult battery. He charged the enemy team up. If you were facing against him, you immediately got a fucking plus 10% win chance. Just like a lucky little charm in a gacha game. You put him on the enemy team and you're just doing well off the back of it. I don't know how much playtime he's going to get. I think people were speculating that he's on this team as just to fill in the 7-player limit.
Oh, it's Nevermore, not Nevermind.
Nevermore. Oh, from
like
Dota.
But never.
Dude, it's from Dota. Same with like Roshan. Maybe that's a fucking ill omen. I don't
That
know.
is an ill omen.
That is a really ill omen.
Oh.
But yeah,
is this Roshan in Witness Protection? He's just come back as Nevermore.
I don't think so. Now, that's one of the problems. But the weirdest thing is that they could have a very competent off-tank, but instead they've decided, this is obstacle number 3, by the way, they've instead put Hybe, who is an off-tank player, on main support for this team. And this is where, listen, I'm not too well-versed. This is when I was just doing my research, but the general consensus from a lot of fans is that, goddamn, this is just a massive waste of potential. For this individual player. I mean, it's similar to the kind of shit when Kuki was playing main support. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're never going to see results when he is playing an off role if he's got no experience in this shit. Now, you've got Wia.
Yeah. I actually don't know how to pronounce the name, but I thought...
I can't even recall if they played when Wia was playing for the Charge because he was playing alongside Shu. So
I think he played like one game or something like that. I think he got playtime.
Yeah, but... Again, that's another bright spot if you are to look at that for this team. But I've provided you the overall context. 3 issues that could fuck this team over and prevent them from getting a single win. And I think it's likely that 2 of them happen.
So you're saying you're a Valiant fan, bro?
Listen, I'm setting the context because I think there's some people who don't know just the amount of issues that this team has. And again, if you are a Valiant fan, I need to reiterate this as well. Try not to take it too much out on the players themselves.
Yeah, I want to shoot the players a bit of bail here too, because the players that got picked up for this, and also I want to shoot bail a little bit to LGE, who are the Chinese organization responsible, presumably, for putting this roster together.
Sure.
Because, first of all, we already know from people like Dia that there was a sentiment that was popular with at least some players that they were worried to join the LA Valiant for their career's sake. You don't want to tarnish your reputation by joining a losing squad. And especially for somebody like Dia, who's already had that experience with the Shanghai Dragons prior, that would just boom you completely. So I can understand why the Valiant, and more specifically LGE, might have been unable to put together the best roster of free agents possible.
Valiant's fault. Maybe they shouldn't have dropped their roster last minute and made this transition.
Absolutely.
So, footnote.
Absolutely. But that's not the fault of the players, and arguably not that much of the fault of LGE either, because the Valiant themselves made the decision. But I also want to what was the next thing that I wanted to talk about as well? I can't fucking remember. But the players themselves are going to be in a super hard spot this year. And I think that even though the support for the Valiant itself is going to be at an all-time low. Oh, that was the other reason, actually. The other reason that I wanted to shoot a little bit of bail to LGE is because Halo reported that Thor was going to join this team, a main support that would have presumably allowed Hybe to continue playing off-tank. Mm-hmm. And Halo said that one of the reasons that he thinks that fell through is because the Valiant are not looking for people that have buyouts. They're not willing to pay any amount of buyout. They just wanted literally minimum value roster possible as mandated by the league. We're going to pay the absolute minimum value for this team. And there's not that much that LGE can do about that. If you've been given the reins for a team, but daddy won't give you the pocket money, what you going to do? Like, you're just... your hands are tied in that sense, and you're going to end up putting together a roster that looks like shit.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to talk how they could turn this roster around, obviously signing a couple of those players still in Chinese contenders is one of those. Like Dia, Super Rich is still not picked up by who's a fantastic main support. So if you got that, then you could transition Hybe into like an off-tank role, and I think he would do better than Shou Cheng. So that seems to be the general consensus. You know,
I'm sorry, who's housing a bird?
What?
Can anybody hear?
A bird?
Bird?
No, there's no bird here.
Sorry?
Oh, it's me!
What?
These headphones have like no. If I click a button, I can. Oh, what's it called? Feedback or whatever.
Yeah.
So I can hear myself out loud. I'm like, Johnny, is your dog like squeaking a toy or something and shaking it around? Because I can hear her squeaking. I can hear like a budgie, but it's coming out from outside my window and it's coming through my headset because it has feedback. I thought I was going crazy. I was like, how's no one picked up on this? There's like a budgie in someone's house.
What a replacement for Matt.
You think I'm down in the coal mine, like digging a hole and there's a budgie in a cage? Bloody hell. All right. Sorry, Johnny. Sorry, mate. Carry on.
I'm just... I think I actually think when I look at this that it's early days. Because I mean, the way this was just this just happened. You know, I didn't see what's it announced on Weibo. I didn't see the Weibo post personally. Like, there's this Twitter account that I think follows the scene and tweets out the Weibo post and stuff. Overwatch Beacon or something. Yeah. Like, I haven't seen the post myself. I don't know how credible it is, but everyone said that LA Valiant announced it. Okay, but the fact that they haven't announced the LA Valiant roster in North America, I don't know if they intend to. But maybe they're having like second thoughts, like, what are we doing here? Why is an off tank on main support? You know, just look at the tweets and replies on this account. It's sad. It really is. But
I don't think someone's
do think
working there, like someone said earlier. I don't think they have someone to man this Twitter.
No, probably not. There could be a couple of ways for them to fix things. Okay, so my 5-map prediction, it could change if they add 1 or 2 more players to actually round it out, because then it's not horrible. Then you have a couple of things going for you.
We are so late in the off season right now. I know that it might feel like we're stuck in an eternal purgatory in the off season. Just the content drought and the desert is all around us. But there is an oasis on the horizon, and it's approaching fast. I mean, what are we looking at here? We're looking at less than a month. What, 3.5 weeks or something until the season begins? Close. It's April 16th. Yeah, I mean, what is it? It's 3 weeks until it's 3 weeks until the week that the season begins. That is not much time to start, you know, trying to find new players, and
it's unreal.
And you don't have an attractive angle at the moment if you're trying to find players to join the Valiant. You're not pitching them on some seasons of success. You're not pitching them with a large amount of money. You're not pitching them on any kind of large fan attention. You're going to be joining the most hated team in the league, at least in terms of the organization. Sorry, the most hated organization in the league at the moment. You're going to be joining for minimum salary, presumably. Your org isn't getting a buyout, so go fucking whistle if you're looking for one of those. And you're probably going to lose the majority of your games. Who's going to want to join? No one.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Like this is why I can see that a lot of the fans have a problem with the league as well and their decision making that's allowed this to occur. But I think that I keep coming back to this idea in my head of like thinking about what rules should the league put in place to avoid this from happening. And I think that most of the way the Overwatch League has operated so far is assuming that the orgs are going to act in good faith for the continued health of their own organization.
If you're buying in, it's like you want everybody to be taking it as seriously as each other.
Yeah.
Like each
it's bad
team,
for every other team, yeah.
If you have bought into this concept, you clearly believe in it, and you want it to succeed, so you're not going to do actions that would actively harm it and bring down the rest of the league.
Yeah, and instead it's like they've just taken, they've just taken a knife to their own face. They're just chopping their nose off, chopping their ears off, and it's like, could you stop that? It's like, no, actually, no laws against this. I'm going to continue to sabotage myself. It's a sad situation, but I'm also not exactly sure what realistically and practically the league should have done differently on the approach to this point.
It's a very difficult situation because the way like COVID has impacted everything as well. I'm sure a lot of teams' plans has changed around. I'm a big believer in like financial incentives. If there's one way to like make it so sliding that like if you're bad and you're not like putting in the work or time or money, that you really get like, I don't want to say penalized, but like you get way less of the cake, whether that's like prize pool or probably more importantly like broadcast rights, revenue share, like all of that kind of stuff. I'm a big believer in that kind of things. So you need to find a way to motivate some of these teams. But like even Boston, like there was a time like a couple of years ago when we were like, okay, Boston is not even trying at all, but at least they tried executing a scouting and finding talent kind of way to pull off their program. Like they were so bad, but they were trying. Like they've tried out more players than any other team in the league because they really rigorously tried to pick up, the diamonds in the rough in contenders, etc. They put in the work. Like they actually tried. Whereas here, like with the Valiant, it's like, wow, you made a last minute decision and you put yourself in a horrible spot and you're not even trying to like, make it.
It's hard to define
so.
how badly someone's doing their job. I mean, sometimes you could definitely see at surface level at this point, you're like, okay, so they definitely haven't been doing their job. And if you took that or like took those rules, Johnny, and implemented them in the league, it's like you get less cut of the pie or whatever.
Well, it would be so hard to for someone to come in. If someone's looking for a business opportunity,
being done though, and if some other teams are working like super hard, and you could sometimes say like, "Oh, Boston aren't doing that well." Like, "Oh, what are they doing?" But then you were saying, they've been trying. They actually actively have been trying extremely difficult. I see what you mean. I kind of agree, but I think it would be very hard to define how much money to take away from them, or like,
but also
how much less of the pie that you're getting. It'd be very hard to kind of find the balance there.
Sure, I don't know the answer, and I'm not an investor. I don't manage finances. I don't know like how to actually structure that kind of thing. Like John Spector is way smarter than me. I'm sure he'll find a way because I know he cares about the league as much as anyone in the scene. So
Flashpoint for CS, which is the one of the first, well, not one of the first, but one of the only ones that got off the ground. Attempts at making a somewhat franchised league for Counter-Strike had a system like that in place, actually. And Monte Cristo is the commissioner over there, as far as I'm aware, and works at a high level in the parent company. And he implemented a system whereby the teams that are at the lower end of it pay a fine back to the league that gets reinvested. And that the design there is that, okay, you don't get relegated, but you're financially motivated via the fining system to try and get better and better. And so it becomes more, you should spend money on your team to get good rather than just sit around and take the fine at the end of the season. As it turns out, though, that didn't work in practicality because the teams wouldn't create a ranking system to accurately rank the teams. So they didn't find, like, if you dropped outside the world 15, I think it was, you would have to pay like an X level of fine, but the teams never came up with like an objective ranking system, so that fell through, and none of the leagues have not actually enforced any of the fines as well. So I know that there's been a bunch of like drama around it like that, which I'm sure we don't know the all of the facts around it because the all of those discussions happen internally, but you can see there that there was an attempt made to make some kind of financial incentive, which didn't work out in practicality as well, even though it seems like a decent idea. And I think this season actually does have some incentive to be better. Like, I think Boston has done a good job here at buying the dip as well. You've bought at a time when the stocks are somewhat the lowest that they are in the Overwatch League. People were mad excited about it in Season 1. In Season 2, you're getting ready for homestands. There's occasional homestand stuff popping off. Beginning of Season 3, people are expecting homestands, paying big money, getting set up for them. They happen a little bit. Oh, fuck, COVID. Boom, shut it all down. It goes online. And this season, people are prepping to be online. Costs are reduced. And they've decided to buy the dip at this point and see if they can get success while things are a little cheaper. I think that makes sense for them. When you look at the Valiant, people aren't even probably going to pay attention to the Valiant because they're not going to get into any of the tournaments, which the entire league is structured around. So they're just going to play 16 games, and that means they're probably only going to play 4 weekends out of the entire year.
Yep.
So people you won't even notice them. Like that's the failure this year. If you don't succeed, you won't even get noticed. You won't be on broadcast anywhere near as much as the teams that do well. It is structured in a way that's different from the other seasons where the bad teams are just going to be a blip on the radar. They're kind of just going to pass through.
Right? They're just a fart in the wind, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's what they're going to be. And that is almost the punishment that you were kind of speaking about, Johnny. Because they're not going to get, if you're bad, then you're not getting any broadcast time and you're not going to be, your sponsors aren't going to be shown as much and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but then it's like, how do you raise capital if you get less screen time? So you tend to get less money from sponsors, and it's just like, it's very complicated, and I'm not going to claim that I know anything about how to actually like structure this, but Godspeed.
The situation just unfortunately highlights, like I said originally, the weaknesses of the franchising system. Has tons of strengths as to why you would set up a system like this with everyone buying into this concept, and it's the reason why you can have like leagues like this. You introduced relegation. I mean, people wouldn't buy into that.
Yeah.
Like, because you just lose your investment. But you, when you create a product like this, like the Overwatch League, when you create a franchise league, you're assuming that everybody buying in is gonna, stay committed to it. And one bad egg, like the IGC here in this situation. I mean, to get back onto the topic of how you would even punish something like this happening. What's to stop teams from being like, well, we were acting within this guideline. This is how we wanted to run our business to move forward.
Well, yeah, that's also what they've said as well.
Exactly.
They are looking to make. They're looking to try and tap into a Chinese market. They think that there might be some opportunities for live events to happen within Asia. Like that's on the surface. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, but like this exactly. So how do you punish that? Like if they're acting within their best interests. Again, you've already brought up the financial incentives of Flashpoint, but again, it doesn't really work that well if it turns out. I mean, depends what you base it on. It's complicated. It's messy. But that's the roster. That's the team preview. We've already laid out the context of what could go wrong. Do you want to grade them,
Brennon?
Oh, yeah.
You want to rate this team? I mean,
keep it consistent.
There's no jokes here. This team will end up in 20th. It's not like they have that much hope. It seems like the circumstances are set up where they won't even be, honestly, able to get additional players during the season. There's already this air of disappointment about them where players don't want to join them.
Yeah,
it's looking dismal for this team, for the Valiant.
Expectations are set extremely low, though, and if they're able to overperform the bar, which is buried in the floor, then people might start to get excited about them a little bit.
Sure.
The only hope for the Valiant is that these players are really hungry. Crystal and Milanran come into it with a lot of focus. They're determined to prove everybody wrong. IB transitions really nicely as well. And they develop this underdog story of when are they going to get their first win?
The same as Shanghai season 1.
That's the only solution for them. The thing is, they're not going to get 40 opportunities to build this narrative.
Yep.
They're just going to get 16, and it's going to be...
It's also not brand new.
No.
There's all this baggage that comes with their attempt at the league this year.
And a lot of what people like about underdogs is the plucky story of the hard times that they had to endure or something, the rough circumstances. Whereas with this organization, it feels self-inflicted, like they've sabotaged themselves. So I don't know whether people will really identify it in that way. I think it would be very healthy for the league to do content around some of these players, if at all possible, to try and save this narrative from the Valiant, who are determined to shoot themselves in the face.
Yeah.
Just one player.
Not even the foot, mate, just a face.
In the face, yeah. If you can get one player that has a great personality and a story about how this is their opportunity and they want to make the most of it, and people can get behind them in that way, you can save the narrative around this team. But my God, you got to work it. You got to fucking work it, because it doesn't.
I am going
naturally.
the other way. I am going the other way. I'm gonna say this. I think they're gonna get off to a horrible start. Then will come like when naturally the tide turns and we're like, okay, let's give them a second chance. Crystal's gonna go off, have like 1 or 2 good series. Not gonna win a series, but he's gonna have 1 or 2 good series. Then he's gonna go out on a high note and be like, this team is not worthy of my time. I'm out. I'm benching myself, and we'll see Nevermore playing Hanzo on DPS, and they'll just be like, we don't have 2 DPS players because Crystal just failed again.
That's when they sign me.
But Crystal's stock will remain Overwatch League level because he had a couple of good series, and he's like, yeah, that's enough of me showcasing my skill. People still know I still have it. And then
you think the bag getter is going to finesse everyone?
Yep.
God, Ocean's 15. I can see it now.
I think the one good thing about this roster, though, is that they signed a big streamer as well to carry them their way through. And I think that it's probably going to be
Who was it?
I think it's going to be a bit of a painful transition, but I think that Hiko will belong better in a coaching role, actually.
Is Hiko the big streamer?
Yeah, rather than just baiting all of his teammates, I think that Hiko will be actually one of the driving talents behind the LA Valiant success. I think if he can
believe you for a second.
I actually believed
you.
They couldn't afford buyouts on any of the players, but they could buy out
Hiko. They spent their entire budget on Hiko. It's crazy, isn't it?
Mad.
It is
apparently
mad.
his name now is DMO. He was Hiko, but renamed DMO.
Oh, really? That's sad, actually, because I would have loved to just keep the narrative all about Hiko all season long. Just anytime there's a pause or a break in the action and you don't have anything to say, just talk about Hiko. Yeah, wow, he's really doing a good job with these guys, isn't he? He's doing his best. in his off time from playing Valorant. Fucking hell.
Wow.
Okay. Well, if you are an ex-Valiant fan, then Godspeed. But we have this guide. I mean, I say we like we came up with this concept.
No,
we didn't.
We stole it.
But was this posted on Reddit as well?
It was, yeah. Okay. This was the top post for this week on competitive Overwatch, actually. Was this flowchart.
Flowchart to decide what team you should support if you're an ex-Valiant fan. I actually haven't seen this yet. This will be my first time seeing it. So.
I think it'd be fun to run you through it.
Okay.
Yeah, let's all run through it. Let's have a look.
Okay.
We might need to zoom in a little bit here. I was an LA Valiant fan last year. Who do I root for now? Do you live in LA anymore, Bren?
No, I don't.
No? Oh, shit.
I do. I'm a Gladiators fan.
Oh.
Yeah, same.
Well, you're both Gladiators fans then.
That's
me and Johnny are back Gladiators fans now.
There you go. Do I live in California? No.
Okay.
I want to root for the ex-Valiant players.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Let's follow
Right,
the yes
right.
path. Let's follow. I like that there's a, are you sure?
like this next one.
And it's like, no, I'm not sure, actually. Do you want to root for the ex-Valiant players? No. Are you sure? You could just get stuck in a loop there where you're getting guilted into rooting for them. All right. Have you...
Oh, this is an easy one, I think, Bren.
Uh-huh.
We'll get to this later, actually, when we talk about our plans for 2021.
Uh-huh.
Have you given up on the Overwatch League?
There have been times. There have been tough times, but
Christ.
No. Okay. Are you a degen on the APAC sleep schedule?
I fucking hope not.
Okay. Do you want to root for America's team?
No.
No? You're not looking for the green card? Okay.
No,
All right.
no.
Do you want to root for a fun
coming
up-and-comer? That's fun? Up-and-coming?
No.
Oh, fuck. You want to root for a Korean NA team?
No.
Jesus Christ. Did you? Hey, listen. This is your last chance, son.
Okay.
Did you really like British Hurricane in the Overwatch World Cup? Overwatch Contenders?
Contenders. Yeah, actually. I
Did you?
Yeah.
Hey!
Wow.
Well, thankfully,
Oh.
they signed Shax
Wow.
from the LA Valiant. So you can
Okay.
follow him.
I'm a big London fan.
There's no use doing the bottom one, bro. If you went no from there, there's no going back. Like
He's the
rooting for
root for
Gus's talent takedown team. Okay, dude.
I think that's really good.
I mean,
So what happens if you select I've given up on the Overwatch League? Where do you even go? Where does this
say?
Can I offer you an Overwatch contenders team in this trying time? Yes. Oh,
What
it's
about no?
Valorant is nice this time of year.
Wow.
That's incredible.
I mean, Immortals are doing pretty well in Valorant. If you wanted to go and follow Packington and Gumba, you could root for them a bit.
Wow. Would
But
they
Dark
want-
Mode
I don't
NA
think
has
they'd want to do
Gravy,
that.
Adam, and Dreamer. It's
Yeah. So
There you go.
what happens if you don't want to root for Valiant players? Like for me, I was a Valiant fan, but I was a Valiant fan because I liked their avocado branding.
Sure.
So where do
Yeah,
I go?
Yeah, Apex sleep schedule.
I am on a DGen sleep
Yeah, you
schedule
are,
right now.
you are.
Yeah.
But do you want to still root for an NA team?
No.
What about an underdog?
Underdogs? No. I want dominant teams.
I think Jonak's the best thing to ever happen to Owl. Why is that
True.
written with so much enthusiasm?
True.
Yeah, I don't know. That's an absolute Jonak simp, isn't it? No, I don't think so.
I can't wait to see another Dynasty versus Shock Grand Finals.
Dynasty Shock. Dynasty making another grand finals. No.
Playoff profits.
Shanghai. Oh, it was correct. I am a
You
Shanghai
are a
Dragon
Shanghai
simp.
simp, yeah.
I am a Shanghai simp.
Lovely. Well, there you go.
Simp.
It's fun. Who made this?
I don't know who made this.
Can we?
Let's get some
Oh, it
credits,
says
shall
there.
we?
It's
Yeah.
at there,
Reddit,
at the very bottom right.
What?
Kurt,
Is that?
You
pull it up,
slash something.
Kurt.
Wait, where is it?
In the bottom right. Everybody kind of put your reading
it's
glasses on.
tiny.
Whoa!
Yeah, because they've done it in
Zoom
grey.
in.
They've done it on grey in a white background.
Go.
Keep zooming.
Slinger.
Slinger.
Thank you, Slinger.
Thank you.
What are
very
you
much.
slinging?
There's a tiny watermark.
He's slinging dreams, is what he's slinging.
Yeah, he is.
Ah,
He
there
is.
you go.
Slinging hopes and dreams.
Selling better narratives than we are.
All right. In other news, big news, actually. Mitch Uber Leslie has announced his plans for the future. And he's announced in his little video, 22 minutes long, I think. It's worth a watch.
Starts with a shoey.
It does start
For
with
no
Shuey.
good reason. Literally, no good reason. Man's just trying to exchange shoeys
Did you
for
see
clout.
that he did two? He forgot to record the first one, so he had to do another one.
He forgot
He forgot to hit record on the first one, so he had to do another one. I think that's a bit of an excuse, to be honest with you. But
Yeah.
I
respect
takes
it.
all
I mean,
kinds.
Mitch, we gotta talk.
That's-
Sounds like a problem.
That's the alcoholism of a new parent. I mean, that is 100% he's drinking because he's getting no sleep. Ash is sat there going, have you finished recording that film yet? And he's like, no, I'm on my fifth chewy.
Fifth try.
I forgot to record again.
Oh, forgot to record again.
I can't
where's
seem
that-
to nail this intro.
Where's that whiskey bottle gone and my Wellington boots? He's just in the corner with a straw and a
Whiskey
Wellington boot.
Chewy. Oh, jeez.
Well,
That sounds horrendous.
he's announced it. There you go. Here's the video itself.
There it is.
Oh, wow.
Take a look at this on Mitch's channel as well.
Nice.
He's announced that him and Matt are returning as commentators. The Overwatch League,
Those are
which is gonna be
nice
very
shoes.
nice.
What's he done
Yeah,
that
what a
for?
shame.
I think you typically have a shoey shoe that you only drink for shoeys.
No,
Maybe
surely
he's got
not.
a
I mean,
bougie
Costa
shoey
does.
shoe.
I did it from a
Custard
sneaker once. I do not recommend doing a shoey from a sneaker. That's no.
I did it from my Vapor Maxes, and by the way, the lining on top of the Vapor Maxes, yeah, pretty thin. They smell like beer for months.
I just tossed them out. I seriously tossed my shoes out the day after. I just couldn't.
I had a pair of cheap like fake leather shoes that I bought for like a wedding that I went to. I think maybe Monty's wedding.
Yeah.
Monty and Susie's wedding. And that was what I used as the shoey shoe. And it just sat in our old house on a windowsill for the entire year.
Oh, it did! For the
Yeah.
entire year that
Yeah.
shoe was there.
Grim.
It didn't
Yeah.
move.
It
Did
move.
did you
was
not
just
wash
there.
it after
Pretty
each
gross.
chewy? You just left it with beer inside.
Yeah.
Beer grows shit.
I mean, it was one shoey and then it was done. It was there. It was an ornament from that point on the windowsill.
That
It was
is...
a little ornament. We'd be playing Magic the Gathering. There's my shoey shoe. I was just there the entire time.
I feel
It
like
was.
you could have grown plants in it, actually.
Probably
that would
nutrients in it.
Be that would be a good
Yeah.
way of turning a shoey shoe into an actual living
Recycling it.
object. Yeah, recycling.
I think I
it.
did
I'm
end up
surprised it
washing
didn't
it.
have fungus in it by the time we left. I'm gonna be
Yeah,
real. I
did-
didn't even know what happened to that shoe. I left before you guys. Is it still there?
Well, I washed it and I think I donated it. So somewhere out there in
Oh,
LA,
lucky person.
there's a shoe. There's my shoe.
They're not going to know the history behind that shoe. The hard times.
Yeah. One of the interesting things in Mitch's announcement video was him discussing just the current climate of being a freelancer, which I thought was pretty interesting. He went into detail about his war against the oppressors, bringing down the lower levels of casters. And, honestly, yeah, a lot of respect to Mitch for that. I mean, he won one of my previous Player of the Week awards because of a lot of his actions, of what he's been doing to support the casters as well, to make sure that they don't get exploited by TOs, and some of the TOs themselves don't even know the proper rates to set as well. But he's been sticking his neck out on the line for them.
He's also talking about getting ghosted by Riot after having a talk with them. I mean, he had a very positive talk with them and then just got ghosted for a while. That's an
esports classic, to be honest.
Really
it's not just a Riot exclusive. That's an esports classic.
It is, yeah.
But you just end up getting ghosted by one person who works in one specific department in, I don't know, Algeria or something.
Classic Algerian esports department.
It's
Every good company has them.
I don't know. I'm just pulling random countries out, just Macedonia. I don't know.
Macedonia. I love that. Macedonia.
Mace. It's named after the weapon.
Oh.
So Mace. He said
Macedonia,
Mace.
right.
Macedonia.
Macedonia. Like Bosnia and Herzegovina, Macedonia.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yep. Anything you guys want to add?
No, I was intrigued by the thing you mentioned about beer and plants, and it's actually quite bad for plants. So you can't grow plants with beer. However, I did look up that you can make beer sourdough bread, so I might do that this week. Where
I know that
instead of water, you put in beer because there's yeast in beer.
What?
And so it helps to rise the dough. So I'm gonna do
You've been big
beer
into your sourdough, right? You've had a sourdough starter that you've been working on for weeks.
Yeah, I've had it for more than a month now. Yeah, been baking sourdough, baking bread, and growing plants. What a life I'm living.
When you say a starter,
That's
you
sick.
mean you have a little thing that you put a little bit into dough?
Yeah, because it's bacteria, right? So you're fostering sourdough bacteria. So it's a starter essentially, right? And you mix in water, flour, and then you have some of the starter that every week you take out a cup and a half or whatever, and then you just refeed it every week, so it keeps growing and the bacteria eats. And then as the years go on, the starter gets more and more complex, starts tasting differently, etc. So that's why we maintain a sourdough starter, because of the bacteria culture.
What happens if you accidentally get some dodgy bacteria growing in there?
Fuck knows. I mean, it probably
What
shows,
kind of
right?
bacteria
It probably shows. Yeah, how does that even happen?
I don't know.
You're talking about mutants from Futurama in the sewers. That kind of
No, what I
are you
mean is
talking
though
about?
that if you have food lying around, if you have some source of food for bacteria to grow on, you leave it open to the elements, then
well, don't leave it open. It's in a can, is it not? So
is it? I don't know. I don't know how it works. I was imagining it being in a bowl
container.
and you feed it and then you put a lid on it or something.
No. It's in a glass container. I don't know what it's called. One of these.
Right, like a jar.
Mason jar.
Yeah, it's like in a mason jar. Yeah, and then people can have it every day. You feed it every day, and then you discard, most of the starter, and then you just take a small amount and you refeed it. I put it in the fridge, so I only refeed it once every week. So once every week I bake bread now. And why are we talking about this? Anyway, I love it.
It's a pretty
I'm
cool
living
story.
my best life,
like
homies.
But
having
plants is
good
very
times.
therapeutic.
There you go.
There we go. Yep,
That is
I'm living
pretty
my best
cool,
life.
actually. Yeah.
Oh.
So, yeah. Why were we talking about
Well,
this?
I
can't
said, does
remember.
anybody have any comments on, Mitch and Matt?
Oh, and you were
announcing
talking
themselves
about
as
beer being
casters,
in plants.
Talking about
Beer
beer
too.
shoes. And
I
I think
it's-
sourdough starters
I
are
do
way
have a
more interesting than
small-
Matt.
Yeah, go on.
True. I was going to say a small thing. Yeah, props to Mitch for almost sticking his neck out on the line, because there are a lot of people I don't think can do what he did in his position. Most people can't do what he did because they're
Yes.
not in his position.
It's the
Yeah.
luxury of
is
the
what I
position
mean.
that he and a lot of us are in.
But also having balls, right?
Yeah, I mean,
It's both, because you need the balls and to be able to have morals and values to speak up about something.
for sure.
But
for
then,
sure.
if you do that and you're just some low low B, whatever, like you're probably not going to get picked up for anything because you're just like yelling into the void and you're just nobody.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's a bit of a legend for stinging his neck out like that. Because
yeah,
if it was someone else, yeah, you'd probably just get stiffed, and then your career is almost.
Well, that's what I mean.
Done,
It's not about risk, is it? And at the end of the day, it's. I mean,
he's improving the industry as a whole.
Well. I mean, I don't think I know anybody who's more like. What's the word to use here? I don't know anybody who's more determined to really legitimize the industry and the craft of commentary than Mitch.
I would say Monty was up there. I mean, I know,
of course.
From like, there's this notion sometimes that like, quote unquote, Monty is evil, or like Monty doesn't care and he's like selfish, or whatever. Like he cares a ton, and like he's given so many people advice, etc. I know for sure that he was one who got me into doing analysis in the first place. And he was like, hey, like you're doing well in your career right now, but you should really look into doing more analysis. And that's why I got hired for the first World Cup. I think in a way.
Yeah.
But 2017 for sure, like when I got picked up for Contenders. And like he's giving me tons of advice, and he really cares. And I know he did the same thing in League of Legends, etc. So he's putting his neck out there. Mitch is doing that now. Like, yeah, I think it's really awesome for everyone. And like, even if you're talent, not in Overwatch, like if you're CSGO talent, if you're Dota talent, I don't care. Like just having people that like vocalize some of the wage issues sometimes, or working conditions, all that good stuff, is always nice to have someone do that for you, because some people can't, and some people won't. So, personally, speaking from my position, that he's able to do that, I think is really respectful and awesome from him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, there was a little bit of extra news as well that he announced that, frankly, I'm pissed off about.
Yeah, I know. You're all talking Uber up, but I mean, it was just a bit of a cunt to us this week.
He's leaked our 2021 plans.
Yeah.
And this is supposed to be a big announcement. I was talking to Netflix. I was on the phone, multi-million-dollar deals.
Yeah.
And this was the newest show. They were going to be premiering this. We had a big marketing budget for it.
Yeah,
and
I know.
Mitch has just leaked what we're going to be doing.
And this is the problem with leaks. This is why we don't talk about leaks.
This is why we don't talk about leaks on Plat Chat.
Because they ruin deals happening behind the scenes.
And now this deal's fell through.
It's fallen through now.
Yeah.
Because Mitch leaked it. So,
but if you could, do you have to?
We'll have to come fucking crawling back, won't we?
What'd you say, Kurt? Okay, yeah. I mean, we're gonna have to come crawling back, and I mean, it's unbelievable. We had this entire the show plan worked out as well for this. We were going to be spending 12 weeks in Siberia, and you can see here, he's heard that.
Hello. Where are we going there?
There we go. He's just leaked that we're making a content house in Siberia where we're competing in ice fishing with nothing but our arse cheeks.
And I've got big ass cheeks.
You do, yeah. I mean, I have had to be working.
I've been quite the thickums.
I've been only doing squats for the past 2 months in preparation for this.
Yeah.
And all my work's gone to waste.
Yeah, I mean, that's looking like a tiered wedding cake right now.
I know. Thank you very much. Yeah. So now this has backfired, and we're gonna have to go back into esports. I guess.
I mean, it's fucking ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
I was really looking forward to this. We had a nice runner show. We were gonna get David Attenborough in it as well. For certain scenes as well, and we were gonna try and
These are the ass cheek fishermen of Siberia.
Exactly. Yep.
That was gonna be the opening line.
That was gonna be the opening line,
and then it pans to us.
Bit of a parody thing, and it's us, and we're saying hi. You may know us from the Overwatch League. And then we just immediately get down to business.
Yeah, it would be really cheap as well to move to Siberia and start a content house, I think.
Would it?
I think so, yeah. Apparently, a lot of people are moving to Siberia because global warming is making the land more arable, more farmable, instead of being just permafrost. So, yeah.
Interesting.
The population density is 3 people per square kilometer.
There's a few more
know about this?
Get started up. I'll tell you that.
You guys know about the satellite internet, the Elon Musk?
Oh, Starlink or something.
Yeah. You don't know about this?
No,
Someone in my chat was telling me about it. It's satellite internet, but it's much lower down to the Earth compared to traditional satellites. So the latency isn't that bad. They're planning on just, instead of doing underground internet work, do it all through satellites. Bonkers.
Yeah, but also Elon Musk is an absolute nutcase and comes up with ridiculous ideas all the time.
Yeah.
Many of which do not work in the slightest. So
Yeah, we'll see.
we'll see where that one
Don't
goes.
try to the moon.
Underneath LA to build a transport system, and he only got. Did you hear about this? This was a long time ago.
Yeah, the tunnel.
He was trying to build that tunnel, but he only got planning permission to dig a pit. So he only dug a pit. He didn't build a complete tunnel. So
I
whether
like the idea
I
of
thought he
building.
did build the tunnel.
sure.
I don't think so. I like the idea of
I
building
thought
one
I
tunnel.
thought it got deeper. Yeah.
I like the idea
Did
of
you-
building one tunnel to solve traffic as well, because you've just created one extra lane.
Yeah.
That's all you've
But
done.
I think the premise of it was that it would be like a vacuum tube. Like a light speed vacuum not light speed.
Light speed.
Not light speed. As soon as I said light speed, I realized I fucked up.
Converting humans to energy. Just poof, zero mass, and you get reassembled at the other end.
I fucked up. But like a vacuum tube.
Have you ever wanted to become a photon?
I fucked up. But really quick. And but then he transitioned it to like, oh yeah, but now it will be a vacuum tube, but only for Teslas.
Right.
So Teslas could go on and I don't know. It doesn't matter. We can talk about so nice
Transport around the Shadowlands, Bren. Is that how you imagine the transport system?
like the what is it? The trans-dimensional tubing or whatever it is in the Shadowlands.
Yeah, we're
The
like
Doctor Who
portal
intro.
tubing places. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, or
Yeah.
you just zip along like you do in Star Trek on Star Wars.
If you were converted to photons and you were reassembled at the other end, are you still the same person?
Yes, because you're still
Well, it's like with a boat, right?
photons, right?
The ship of Theseus? Is that what you're talking about?
The ship of
The boat.
Theseus, yeah.
Like that fucking boat.
What's the difference between a ship and a boat?
There isn't that much, but when you're talking about a philosophical analogy, I think it makes sense to use the name that most people use. I mean that is just a very popular. That's a very popular trope is
fiction.
asking whether or not teleporters actually just kill people and reassemble them at the other end. Yeah.
I'm fine with that. If it gets me down to co-op quicker, like, hey, bro, teleport me away.
Kill me and reassemble a new Jaws at the other end. He'll thank me for it.
Wouldn't it be the same person because it has the same atomic makeup?
And consciousness.
Because you would build it from atoms and various chemicals in the air, right?
Yeah.
And it would have the same makeup as the same person departing because it'd be the same person, right? So
How
therefore,
would you transfer like the mind? What makes up the brain? Memory.
well, it's still all just like chemicals, in the sphere and stuff. Like you just don't like you're not this unique material, Brent. Like you exist because of stars exploding and like nitrogen and shit in space, and you can that exists everywhere.
We're all kind of unique though. Because it's that
Yeah, but if it's rebuilt the exact same way,
right there. He sat there like this, like a rabbit. What?
it would be the same.
well, yeah, but
Anyway.
if you had an extra proton in your body, you wouldn't be transporting yourself because you wouldn't be the same person.
But it's a sense of, I feel like even if it is chemicals,
Yeah.
and I don't know what is a memory.
Well,
what makes up a memory?
Okay, instead of going like that though, if you disassemble a person and you reassemble them at the other end, you're worried that the chain of consciousness is going to be broken, right?
Yeah.
Well, if
Yeah.
you subscribe to the idea that consciousness arrives naturally from the atoms that are arranged in your body, right? That it isn't some kind of ghostly soul that exhibits that just inhabits your meat flesh.
Yep.
Then every time you go to sleep, you break your chain of consciousness. When you wake up in the morning, you could have died the night before, and like your consciousness could be broken. You could be a new person. Your memories.
Sure.
If you teleported, and you were the person that had just come out the teleporter, there would be no way for you to know whether or not you were the same person that went in the teleporter. That's the same as when you wake up in the morning. When I woke up this morning, I'm not sure that I'm the same person that went to bed last night. They could have killed me and replaced me with a clone of myself.
Okay.
I wouldn't know. It was a break in the consciousness, but it's not something
Here's a super simple
not
way of
something you
putting it.
worry about.
The
What?
LA Valiant from 2020 to 2021, is it the same team?
What?
Is
That
it the same
boat thing,
team?
isn't it?
Is it? No, okay, we're moving on. I don't care. We've been on this topic too
2020
long.
to 2021, same team,
Actually, get on
You
this
mean
topic too long.
organization, right?
same organization.
There's been some juice in the scene. Some juice, some drama. There's been juice drama, something of the sort. This is the hottest spice that we've had
for
in
years.
Overwatch for years. And it's Danteh, this clip of him going on and talking about the management of the Houston Outlaws in season 2, season 3, maybe.
Can we just play the clip with audio and? All
Okay.
right, Kurt's figuring it out.
Yeah, I mean, Danteh was just on stream, and I mean, he must have just had a bad scrim day or something because he was just letting it loose.
I don't know. I don't know the context of
Danteh joining us live.
Yeah, I thought that was Danteh talking. Actually, I wasn't having a bad scrim day. We beaten everybody that day. Fuck you.
He's having a good day on rank though.
He is, yeah.
9-3.
Actually, just when I first joined Outlaws in season 2, I asked Flame if we're getting like any new players, and he unironically said there's no good players and contenders. He said there are no good players and contenders in season at the start of season 2, right when I got traded, before any teams made their teams. And then we were like 17th, and all the expansion teams were good. But he said there were no good players and contenders.
Kill them before they
Actually, brain dead. Actually, just
I mean,
when I
pulling no punches there, just throwing flame around.
Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, it was kind of it's been iterated a couple of times, I think, as well. Just the downfall of various teams, down to individuals. But this is the most I think outward a player has spoken about the management in a team at a given point in time. There's not really much else to add to this, really, is there?
I mean, there's a little bit.
Go on then, what do you want to say?
There was also, I was watching this clip on my stream, and Dream was in the chat, one of the coaches, if you remember, for season 3. And he said, he was in my chat, and he said, yeah, Flame did the same thing season 3 as well. And it's, I mean, the Houston Outlaws are trying to rebuild at this point, and we did, we saw that interview with Harsha and Yiska, where Harsha was saying that he didn't really have control over the team in terms of scouting and picking out the players that he wanted for last year too. And this has been the way with a lot of the different organizations within the league in the past. And I think part of the reason that the league has gotten better and better over the years is that people have understood how to run teams, and some of the people that were bad at running teams or hell, coaching or playing as well have left too. Like they've realized that those people were not competent and they have left. That happens at the beginning of every esport, but my God, it did take a long time in the Overwatch League for some people
to lasting consequences with
the
the Houston Outlaws itself.
I mean, don't just think about Houston though. Like Flame's getting all of the hate here, but this was not just an issue that was specific to Houston. Does anyone remember the other Texan team, Dallas?
Oh yeah.
Both of those Texan teams had people on 17-year contracts when they were actually really poor players. They're paying people outrageous amounts of money for contracts that are way too long that they never should have had people signed. It doesn't make sense. Those teams had people signed for roles that they never should have been playing because the people at the top of the food chain didn't know what they were doing. And I don't know.
In Flame's case as well, almost the circumstance of with the Houston Outlaws, with the management company that was above them, right? I think there was a changing of hands as well there.
There was between season 2 and 3, I think.
And I know that Flame placed some of the blame on that. Being part of the reasoning. And
because he had to take over way more logistical stuff. So presumably he didn't have enough time to actually focus on the job of signing players and that kind of shit. But I mean, at that point, why not leave it to the coaches as well? There has been a lot of mismanagement in the Overwatch League. Early on the league side, though thankfully the league itself is now, in my opinion, in a super positive direction underneath John Spector. I think that guy's a boss, and I fully believe in him. And Matt joining as well, I think is a great thing for the league too. But I think at the beginning, that was going in a weird direction, huh?
Not allowed to compliment Matt on the show.
Oh, true, actually.
No.
But for a lot of the teams as well, like you could always tell talking to some teams that they were just set up in much better ways to succeed than others were, and I think you're still seeing the ramifications of that when it comes to some rosters too.
Yeah, I mean, ensuring a large majority of the teams in the league have a good plan or like a sensible plan or like are very dedicated to go in one specific direction. I think that some of the mismanagement just stemmed from like people not knowing what they were doing and they had no plan and they're like, oh, let's just pick up some of these players, blah, blah, blah. But like most, I mean, I'm not saying there are bad teams because there are also a couple of bad teams like going through this year, and we talked about the LA Valiant, but like for the most part, teams have a good understanding of their plan. They're trying to execute it. And sometimes, it doesn't work out because you have a plan and like a player doesn't become available, maybe the money doesn't go around, whatever. But for the most part, I'm really happy with what all the teams are feeling this year because I believe this will probably be the most competitive year of Overwatch League we've had so far because there are so many good teams and like so much new talent and so many exciting storylines. Like I'm super pumped for this upcoming season, and that's credit to the teams for like actually trying to improve. Like Boston Uprising, as we mentioned, like their lineup, I don't know what's gonna, what their result is gonna end up be, but they have some really exciting new additions on the Boston Uprising. Toronto is trying something new. Gladiators are trying to go for a championship. I mean, you got the whole British Hurricane story with London Spitfire.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many interesting teams in the league this time of year, and that's credit for the teams and the management for actually providing us with good rosters, some reasonable pickups, and trying to do their job. So for the most part, I'm really happy with the way they're going. Now, the first 2 years, it was a bit all over the place. It was investors who like tried to hand their, they're trying to like overmanage the roster. It was because we didn't really have the same system early on. We just didn't have enough like general managers to go around. Like I remember, I'm not gonna name anyone, of course, but like I remember a few people who got promoted to general manager. Like they had never been in that kind of position before. They don't know what they were getting themselves into. But that role opened up, and then you get that responsibility, and it's pretty evident when like it doesn't work out when you're not supposed to be in that role. So we had to have a couple of years where people were figuring out, okay, who are the reliable people in the scene? Who knows what they're talking about? That there was this whole thing about like, you remember when we discussed like Bare Hands and how good he was at his job? Credit to him. Like, I think, he gets a lot of flack sometimes for, what happened with them and the mixed roster, like gravy pickups, all of that stuff. But he did actually scout some incredible talent in Korean contenders and like set them up for success later on when that was developed and they had a good chemistry going around. I'm not giving him too much credit there. But like, there was stuff like trying out community members like that and seeing what they could bring to the table. But now I finally feel like we're at a place where, for the most part, teams have a reasonable idea of what they're trying to accomplish and are finding ways to accomplish it. So,
also, I think that the specific example here of that Danteh gives of GMs not respecting new talent coming in was a lesson learned very quickly by the end of season 2, when all of the expansion teams with rookie talent overperformed the teams that were holding on to veteran talent. And then every year since then, there's been an enormous wave of rookies that comes into the league and does incredibly well. Like almost always, the rookie of the year is a candidate for MVP, and there's a bunch of other rookies that are potentially up there too. It's definitely been a learning process, but it's one that people have got on board with rather than tried to fight against, for the most part anyway. There are still obviously big exceptions to this, like Vancouver Titans, horrible situation, like Valiant this year, horrible situation. But I think that's why the community as well is being given the information as well to realize how important management is to the success of a team. Like what good management looks like and what bad management looks like as well, and how that can actually affect things.
I would also say, to add to this, and I mean, I'm asking you guys in part, but like, I feel like when we saw that kind of behavior happen, did we do a reasonable job of like pointing that out? And it was like, hey, like Dallas Fuel, these contracts are not good. Like they're hurting, I think we did a pretty good job of like vocalizing what we saw was good and bad. We've learned our lessons because of that, because like we've seen what good teams do and how they act, and we've seen what bad teams, like what ends up happening with like contracts you're stuck in, or not promoting players, weird like roster decisions, etc. So like I feel like the scene has sort of like helped some of this like grow together. Like the entire ecosystem has really like make these kind of upgrades happen across the board.
I can't remember ever calling someone out for it early though.
What, like, well, we definitely did between season 1 and 2 with Dallas, and they didn't. And then season 2 and 3, we said the exact same thing. Like when these guys were, like Harry Hook, for example, were continued on contract,
right? Yeah,
and like Mickey, for example, and
what was going on?
Yeah, I mean that was and like. Yeah.
I mean, Houston was a meme for a long time. Like, I don't know if there was a rabid fan base or am I like alone here? But there was definitely a time where we were like, Houston Outlaws, what's happening here? Like, this is dumb. Like when you have to start making the, he pulse bombed the Diva excuse. It's like, no, something's wrong here with the Outlaws roster. Like, it's not good enough. Like, something's obviously wrong. Did you guys not feel that at that time?
Definitely,
like,
but I think Houston were one of the teams that fought back quite a lot. Where the fan base would fight back against that.
Called an idiot.
And like, for example, I'm thinking of the Monty scenario where he was calling out Houston for just constantly playing goats when they were awful at it instead of trying to.
Monty was the one who got the most flack for that, but that was because he was saying it during the cast and afterwards on Twitter, I think, on social media. But we were saying the same points on the desk.
Yes,
we were doing the analysis on that year as well. Yeah, like
but I think it was accurate as well at the time. Like but I think a lot of the time when you're in the team and you believe that what you're doing is correct, because why else would you be doing it? You think that it's correct. It can feel like the people on the outside actually don't have enough info to be able to correct you. But I think it's like a signal and noise problem. When you're inside, you end up not seeing the big picture. And not realizing.
I mean, that happens for fans too. The fans too. Like I can assure you guys, I think out of all the teams in the league, I have muted the most Houston Outlaws people on Twitter because like it's just so tough to deal with. Like especially those years when like you criticize them or like this is not good enough. Like you always have the Houston Outlaws fans in your Twitter just like spamming you, and some of them anyway. I just mute away because like they can't see it. Like they're just so they're just such Houston Outlaws fanatics that they don't see what I'm seeing. So. Wow, I really pulled off like an ivory tower kind of image there of
myself. You don't see what
throne.
I'm seeing.
I know better than you guys.
From his blimp at the top of the universe.
The next topic we've got, if you're okay to move on, is talking about everyone's favorite content creator.
Yeah,
Dunkey. Now, I haven't seen his Hope for Overwatch 2 video.
You didn't see the video?
No.
I've not seen
it. Comment on it.
It was. Did you? Any of you watch it?
Just you.
No. Was it just me?
I'm part of this. Okay, I need to explain. Okay, I need to explain because some people on Reddit are like, well, they don't prepare. They don't know what they're talking about. Well, also we decided to add this segment like 5 minutes before the show.
I didn't even know I was doing this version of Plat Chat as well. So I'm just saying. I didn't even know I was doing this. I came in and Kurt says, "Okay, Jack, do you want to do 2 team previews today?" Sure, Kurt, no worries. I jump in. So we ready to start Plat Chat? I'm like, what? Plat Chat? I thought I was doing team previews today, mate.
We're not so easy. We're just suck at organizing and preparing.
Clearly,
but for this in particular, I can understand why you haven't watched it because you're not the target audience at all. But I think it's really cool to talk about because our normal audience is a really hardcore audience. Like even the people who watch, what
game's this?
The people who watch Plat Chat are already invested in the competitive Overwatch side. But Dunkey's audience is so casual. Yeah. And he starts out by saying the bar for multiplayer games is so low, people are playing Valorant right now, which I think is a fantastic opening line and should get everyone in the Overwatch community on board. But Dunkey's your classic casual Overwatch fan. He loves the idea of the PvE aspect and the story and tapping into the characters. And I think that listening to Dunkey's take is so different from the competitive take. He says shit like, why do they give Widowmaker such an awful ultimate? Widowmaker's one of the worst heroes in the game. she's awful. Don't even tell me otherwise. And he's like talking about how cool Hook 1.0 was, because you just got this feeling that you were an incredible like force on the battlefield, that you could do such dumb shit.
Yeah.
And
Hero fantasy.
yes,
I'm telling you.
But it's great hearing his perspective, because it is the casual perspective. It's, you want the game to feel cool. You want the characters to feel like you're playing the characters. You're not really... When we think about the game, or at least when I think about the game, and I think when most of the scene thinks about the game, they're thinking about the balance of a competitive. He's thinking about shit like, if they make May roll around in an ice ball, I'm definitely going to be playing this shit. It's awesome. He also brings up this point where he thinks the balance should be designed for people's worst tendencies. So like with the shield giving you health back in the PvE thing, he says you should balance for practicality. People are idiots. They don't like doing things that are boring, like playing on the payload. They like overextending and hunting fights. Balance your game around that. Balance your game around making the fun things to do the right things to do, which is such an interesting idea of how Overwatch should go about things. Yeah, and he's saying this is what people like to do: play the game in a dumb way that's fun. And if you're trying to incentivize them to play smart, you're gonna set up this awful dichotomy where people don't want to do smart shit to win, and people who want to win are going to get annoyed at the people playing for fun, and the people who play for fun are going to get annoyed at the people playing to win, which I thought was a very interesting idea there as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. I feel stupid for not thinking like that. That was such a good statement.
It's very easier said than done, I think.
Sure. But how do you make sitting on the payload fun? Introduce new dance modes?
Well, his point was fucking get rid of those kind of game modes, basically, where everything is like you're on one objective that just tunnels through. His idea for new game modes in Overwatch 2 was much more like a MOBA, where you have different micro objectives, and so the team splits apart, and so you're incentivizing less bunched together team fights, and you're incentivizing more skirmishing on the flanks, where it's like you have to fight over, I don't even know, like let's think about it in terms of a MOBA where you have like the Baron or something that you can fight over, but there's also a tower that you can take down if we're thinking about League, where you can pressure both objectives at once if you want, or you can go all in on one objective and the enemy team has to think, do we want to fight them over that objective, or do we want to like get compensation by fighting over the other one instead? Those kind of things, these decision trees don't exist in Overwatch right now, except on a micro level in terms of positioning, where someone takes a high ground and you think, okay, should we challenge them for that high ground, or should we flank around them to get another position and like use the fact that they're not somewhere else? That is like the similar concept, but not as obvious to the casual player. Whereas I do agree with him that all of the game modes in Overwatch are very one-dimensional. Escort, capture a point. They're like, it doesn't have any of the fun back and forth of 5CP from TF2, which was the game mode that I loved coming in. And it doesn't have any of the complexity to like the attack and defend of Valorant, for example, and CSGO. And it doesn't have the like laning phase and different objectives of a MOBA. It has just a series of team fights over and over and over again. It doesn't seem like they're going to do this, but it would be really cool for them to try and reinvent the game from a game mode point of view. I know they have push, that does seem like a really cool idea, but there is a lot more that you could do with Overwatch that I think is a really great idea from this video that I would encourage people to think about a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, when we did the BlizzCon video, I was very much the guy who just like make Overwatch like the kids' game, make a Netflix TV show, that kind of casual, because I think that the universe has so much to it that like it's way more than a multiplayer game. Like it should be way more than a multiplayer game because the universe deserves it. But I never really thought about like redesigning Overwatch core objectives on such a like fundamental level.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to hear that. Yeah, it's so hard to think about because like I just heard this because I didn't see the video. But it's like it's so hard to imagine like what that would look like. Because I mean Valorant, if you want to make the comparison to like a tactical FPS, that game mode, like it has an objective, like, well, you go plant the bomb. But like, if you think about what's fun and what people are doing, it's most of the time just taking ego jewels or like using your
Judge
abilities by
only
yourself
garage,
and like pushing out, or like just camping in a corner with a judge, even stuff like that, right? So that doesn't either really promote the objective and what it is about. So it's very hard. Like, as you said, it sounds incredible when he says it. And I would love to just sit in a room with Jeff Kaplan for like 2 hours and brainstorm about that sentence alone, because I know he just pull out some insane shit that I love to hear. But yeah, I mean, it's an incredible sentence from Dunkey, but yeah.
Go on, Jules.
This is why you need so many different levels of player and like skill within like a development team, and different feedback from those kind of players that are bronze to top 500 pro players, etc., to kind of make sure everything is fun, like we were talking about. I think having micro objectives would be really interesting, but for me to actually think about that, who like I just sit and spam solo queue all day and play the same way. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's so hard for me to do that because I am so used to this point. And to be fair, I really like playing this way too. And that's
sure,
I really like,
of course.
But I'm also not like a lot of even some of my viewers that watch my stream that like to play Overwatch in a very different way, that like to just mess around in quick play all the time, or like, you know, a lot of the casual audience on console that like, yeah, sure, Josh, whatever you're into. I mean, there's a lot of custom games for everybody nowadays, but I mean, there's a lot of other people that probably only play custom games. And they play there's a new one at the moment that I found, which is like Overwatch is OP, or like your hero is OP, but how? And like Ryan has a shadow that like ripples throughout the whole map, and like Mercy turns into a sun. If you're like in her LOS, she will like almost instantly kill you. Arissa will win the game if you don't kill her. Widowmaker can shoot through walls if she uses her ultimate. Like there are probably people that only play those kind of games and will never ever touch competitive. And if they do, they'll play it once and be like, this sucks. Why the hell do they have 6 minutes on Voskaya to attack second? Because we got rolled by Smurfs. Do you know what I mean? Like there are a lot of people that I feel almost you need to almost consult to make sure you can tick all the little boxes. It's extraordinarily hard, I can imagine.
It is,
so, I think for us, even as well, like, of course, we don't all play on the same level, but we still have this kind of professional mindset in the way that we almost approach the game and look at the game, because we've been casting Overwatch League. And we've been casting Overwatch in general for so long, and the best players in the world. So I think it's very hard from at least our standpoint to pick out a lot of those things, because I never thought about micro objectives across the map. What if there was a thing that if you capped or were in control of a small beacon on the map, that you got an extra tick on the last point, but it was like kind of out the way of your spawn, kind of out the way of the defender's spawn, so you like had to actually send people off to cap it.
No. It would, it would fundamentally
like
change the whole way that the game is played, I feel. Because
exactly,
you don't really spread out that much when you play Overwatch. It's quite an unusual game, really. Like every other game that I've ever played has something other than team fighting. And Overwatch has some poking as you approach to team fight, but the main thing you do repeatedly is team fight.
Each other,
Yeah,
and it's only at the very tippity top of Overwatch will you get the actual defined playstyles of poking. We are a poke comp. We will use our like hyper range to rotate around the map to stop the enemy from like actually attacking us and getting to us, and, like stop us from getting like rolled over. And only at the very tippy top of Overwatch League and like even ranked sometimes that happens. The majority of the time, it's 12 different brains that are just kind of all over the place with no idea what's really going on in the grand scheme of things, just kind of running into each other over and over again. And that is what Overwatch is like for 99.9% of players. There isn't this finesse, which you will see at the very top levels of Overwatch gameplay.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
The only thing I could really think up with is like, instead of like a mini health pack, if you could fight for like a small thing like on a flank that like speeds up the payload for like 5 seconds. So like you get like a payload movement speed kind of bonus because someone completed like a side objective. Or if you're defending, like slows the payload down a little bit. So it's like, oh, we can't really contest a second time for point A, but if we capture this objective in time, then it slows down and gives us another chance, or as you were saying, like extra time on the clock, or maybe like you pick something up and the entire team gets like a 50 health boost, or like something like that. Small objectives. It would be interesting.
Mechanic. I believe it was in Vainglory. I'm like 99% sure when I casted that quite a while ago now, where they had this like global objective, and if you killed it once, was it Vainglory? Oh man, if you killed it once, no, or was it League? I don't know. It was a MOBA, but if you killed this objective once, or you captured this objective once, Twisted Tree Line. That was it. The 3v3 version of League of Legends. Bren might have played it. No. Anyway, there's these two like spires on each side of the map, and you have the two nexus, obviously, like you would do. And these spires, if you captured them, you would gain bonuses. So if one team had one and one team had the other, you get the same kind of bonuses. But if you captured both of them, you would gain like a little bit more damage and like a couple extra bits and pieces than the enemy team just don't have. And then they are locked for a certain amount of time, and then they open again, and then you can kind of recap them, which kind of aided you in actually winning the game. If you manage to cap both spies, especially in early game, you're doing pretty well for yourselves. You're getting more gold, you're getting more kills, etc. And those are kind of side objectives that, yeah, maybe if they were added to Overwatch, they'd work out pretty well. I wouldn't say like extra damage or anything like that. That would be ridiculous. But
it's a crazy idea. It's really like one of those ideas that addresses the fundamental core principles of the game. And I think it's interesting in that it's even on the table, not from a developer point of view. I don't think it even is from a developer point of view. There's no reason to believe that it is. But from a content creator that's thinking about the game very casually, it's interesting that that's where his head goes for Overwatch 2, because a lot of the community narrative before BlizzCon was just, oh, this is just DLC. Why am I paying for this? And yet, I think a lot of the people that are more invested in the Overwatch scene realize that there are going to be things in this game that feel very different from Overwatch 1. And there are going to be, it is an opportunity for them to take a new look at some stuff.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting, and these conversations that we're having right now, I guarantee you, it's not the first time the devs have had conversations about.
We're not bringing up any new ideas for the devs.
Yeah, but it's interesting to think about at least. I think the concept of like having objectives to fight over is something that's been done for years in first-person shooters, like arena shooters, or like even shooters like Halo. You have the power weapons as objectives to fight around the map, like weapons that are really good, or like a power-up like camo or like the overshield. Yeah, well, Quake. Quake is the best example of all of this
you're
stuff.
trying to keep map control on a massive map in a 1v1, timing all of the abilities and denying access to them.
And that's where
it's crazy. It's like the opposite.
Distilled down into like, you have to keep a knowledge and timer in your head. But if you open it up to like a 6v6, I mean, who knows? I don't know. It's a really interesting concept.
I'm down for micro objectives. I'm down. Let's do it.
It changes the whole game. But yeah,
let's make Overwatch great again.
In other news, the tournament that's going to be coming soon. What is it? The experimental patch tournament. Yeah, they released patch notes, official patch notes for it, which we're not going to go over. We've already kind of done that in a previous episode. But there's going to be 4 OWL teams so far, at least. I mean, there may be more. We don't know yet. But yeah, Boston, Washington, Florida, and Vancouver have rosters that they're playing under for this tournament.
Yeah, they've got weird names as well. I don't know what the names are, but
I like it. It's like Puggy.
Washington or something? I can't remember. All of the players had like sexy something on their game.
Yeah, it goes against the grain though, because typically I think teams have been kind of barred from competing in these lower level events and whatnot. Whether that's been a change recently or not, I'm not sure.
It might just be because this is an experimental card, so it's literally not the same as live Overwatch. It's like
it's like a weird fun game mode.
That
presumably there's money on the line. If Matt was here, he'd tell us, but I don't know the specifics of it.
Yeah.
I think this is interesting, and I think if this paves the way for OWL teams being able to play in tournaments in the future,
that would be awesome.
Very good for the scene, because that is a fantastic way for lower level talent to get noticed. If you have a good performance in a tournament against an OWL team, I think it's only beneficial. The argument against it is kind of like inherently when I guess the concept of franchise leagues in the Overwatch League was set up and proposed. I guess this kind of rule was in place to prevent these teams playing in the first place, so that you didn't really undermine, I guess, the premier product.
I think so, yeah.
But I think as time's gone on, the benefits just outweigh that kind of risk.
I agree
completely.
I absolutely agree.
If this leads now to our teams being able to compete in these tournaments and actual like having these teams that amateur teams can aim to knock down, to prove themselves, to showcase their skills, I'm all for it.
Especially if it happens during the off season. If it happened sometime like say a month after the grand finals, and okay, maybe not all of the Overwatch League teams enter some big tournament in the off season because some of them want breaks, some of them are rebuilding, whatever. But if you put together some of the rosters that you have still, like players that you're still keeping under contract, or make some kind of mixed team to participate, and some contenders talent comes in and whoops these OWL teams, they're going to get signed for next season. So it's not a case of these guys, the contenders teams are better than the OWL teams. It's the case that they are going to become an OWL team. Maybe not the whole team, but those players are going to get absorbed into the Overwatch League.
Yeah.
And I think that would be really exciting for people during the offseason to have not just Gauntlet as its own separate thing, but some kind of mixing ground. However you could make it work logistically during the offseason as teams are making moves, where you got an opportunity to see how contenders talent matched up against OWL talent and really get a feel for who could make it and who could be elite if they were picked up. And I think also that's just a great scouting tool as well.
Yeah. John
It's so
tweeted
hard.
in response to this mislead tweets about the rosters as well. I mean, it's kind of ingenious. If we have a panel buff tracer to 175 HP, teams can do a preseason event without worrying about revealing their strategies, which is sort of hinting towards that like one season with Nate Nasser where we had preseason matches and they like just swapped off the roles, and like they'll probably do it the same thing here again. You know, they won't take it too seriously, but at least the teams want to play and like they signed up and they're gonna do it. So I hope that they'll put on somewhat of a good that's
a good image.
That ain't it, but you know, maybe that one was saved by Wall Street bets. I don't know. That's another side story we don't need to talk about. But
That's Mr. X watching our podcast here when he's not when he's not on it.
Jesus.
Looking at.
Yeah, but it's like a
That's
preseason event, which is fun, which I don't think it intended to be actually. But well, I mean, maybe some of it was. But I don't know. It's just good to see teams sign up, and we'll see Overwatch League teams before the season starts.
Yeah, that's. I mean,
There
it's
it
a great point as well by John. Like that's part of the reason I think that they are allowing Overwatch League teams to participate is because it's going to be so different to everything that you see in the season. Like it's a fun tournament, not in the sense that teams aren't taking it seriously. They might take it really seriously, but you ain't never going to see Overwatch like this. This is like
Two turret tour, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, it's mini Sentry Torbjorn. It's
cool.
It's a weird state of the game, but it's an awesome idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Moving on. The bit of unfortunate news that came out this week was that there was a bunch of layoffs within Activision Blizzard Esports as they were restructuring around COVID and obviously moving to an online format, an online world with COVID around. So yeah, unfortunate news within Activision Blizzard Esports, of course. And they kind of detailed, I think there was an article that detailed kind of like some of the justification towards it as well. From what I remember, where they were talking about kind of prioritizing a move away from live events, which doesn't, again, necessarily mean that they're moving entirely away from live events, but it does mean that obviously for the foreseeable future, because, I mean, even best case prospects, if you're looking for like a projection of the future of when live events properly return with crowds and everything else, it's a while off, even still. And I mean, some places have jumped the gun a little bit, or some places locked down early enough where it's still a thing. But ultimately, for the model of esports that's being ran in, Activision Blizzard, it seems like they're focusing more and more online.
Yeah, which I'm not gonna lie, it worries me. Like this, when I read this article, it worries me, and I mean that separately from the from my condolences towards the people that actually lost their jobs. That's always sad, and I know that not everyone has announced, like, I don't have a full list of exactly who is not working at Activision Blizzard Esports anymore, but I know some people, like, for example, some of the observers that got let go, that I was really big fans of the work that they had done within the scene, And I am very sad to see them go. And I'm sure that even the other people that I don't know personally, I mean, I feel bad for them too. But on a different level, I'm also worried about the general idea of this, because if you scroll up, one of the first paragraphs is that they're planning for a future. In an interview this morning with the Sports Business Journal, the Esports Observer, they said they're planning for a future where its business will look different and less dependent on live events. And whether that's a short-term move or a long-term move has not really been explained yet. But there was also an opinion piece, I think it was an opinion piece anyway, by Invent Global, where they were saying that this appears to suggest that homestands are not going to be like the prior model that was sold by Nate Nanzer at the beginning of like homestands being a big thing and this is what the entire league is based around. It seems like they're planning for a future in which that is not the case, and it seems like it's more like the 2019 when there was 4 homestands a year or something like that. Which
yeah, I mean, we'll have to see, because it's so hard to predict, right? But we can all agree that 4 is too little, right? We want more homestands than 4.
I would want more,
because that's electric, right? But at the same time, we have this example, and again, I'm completely separating this from the layoffs, and like we all 4 of us here on the podcast, we know people who we care about and has had like relationships with and like at length conversation with that like lost their job, and it's really sad. So I'm not like, when I'm talking about this future plan, I'm not referencing that in any amount or like talking about that. But we had this situation as well where it's like, okay, well, 4 homestands is too few events. Like we want more than 4 homestands events. And like the interest was there because like those events, like people showed up, they were ecstatic, like, oh my God, live Overwatch, this is awesome. But then we also had a situation at the Blizzard Arena where it's like, sometimes like people just didn't show up because like we had so many events in Los Angeles that like we had attendance fatigue. So like you need a model that is probably somewhere between that. It's like maybe every Overwatch League match ever shouldn't be in person. Like maybe we'll get there, but right now it's hard to see how we're going to pull that off. And like then you have the thing with like arenas and like, you know, it's very complicated. So maybe there would be a good middle ground. I don't know what their plan is. I don't have any insight whatsoever. But like I hope that we see homestands for like the big events or like the big matches and like stuff like that. But maybe not every Overwatch League match all season long have to be in person.
Sure.
I think there's a good middle ground somewhere. I hope they lean more towards live events, because I haven't been at a live event for like fucking 2 years, like since Overwatch World Cup 2019 or something. I can't remember. But like I love live events, and like I want more. Well, was it World Cup?
Yeah,
did we do World Cup 2020? No, we didn't.
No,
COVID.
there was no World Cup 2020. So yeah.
And I wasn't at a live event last year because I did it at the studio,
you were at the desk.
or I did it at home. And like I missed the audience, you know. Like I think I speak for all 4 of us, and like it's way more fun to work in person with like a live audience and just like have that electricity and like
honestly,
oh my God,
listening to some of my
is
casts,
the best thing ever. It's
listening to
it's
some
so
of my casts
much
in
better.
New York and Washington versus some of the, I wouldn't say earlier casts from COVID, but as the months kind of got on, I was like, man, there is such a difference. When
There
I
is
was
an
enormous
difference.
Yeah.
When you take a pause because you don't have to say anything at all, because all you can hear is the crowd anyway. And then obviously when the players like erupt too as they win and stuff, oh man,
Mitch
like
said
your
in
casting
his video.
improves so much too.
In his video that Mitch put out, Mitch was saying he was pumping crowd audio, which I assume is just random crowd audio,
random crowd noise,
into his headset when he was casting the finals, just
Don't
to try
him.
and
wish I did that.
Try and capture some part of the feel of it. And I agree with you as well. I would go into those games and I'm trying to like give it my all, but it's just you're not in the same mental place. There's not the same gravitas to the match. It doesn't feel the same in any way. And it's hard to bring that same level of energy when you can't see other people have the same response to the match. Yeah, like when people sit at home, I mean, it's the same when you go and do anything. But I mean, like, I sit at home and I watch comedy, and I'll occasionally smile or like I'll laugh about something that happens. But if I go and see live comedy, it could be 10% as funny, but I'm laughing way more because you're there, you're with them, you're making a human connection. And that's perhaps less when you're watching an esport, because when you go to a live event, you are watching a TV screen rather than human beings, but you're with other human beings, and the energy is infectious, and you feed off it, even if you're just in the audience. And that all translates the entire way through. And I know for me personally, I'm not excited for a future of esports if it trends online. Yeah. If we get to a point in esports where it's more financially sustainable to hold everything online, or not everything, but the majority of like regular season games, and this doesn't just apply to Overwatch, by the way. If this shit happens in Valorant as well, where things continue to like online games are the way forward, and there aren't big regular LAN events, and you know the majority of the year is just online play, I'm not that interested, man. I really am not.
Just to give a separate example, didn't like Henry G win like Broadcaster of the Year from Esports Awards and then quit and was like, sorry, like I was not in the business to do online shows like an entire year plus, because like it's not as exciting, it doesn't get me psyched to do my job. So like that's an outsider example as well, not someone not in Overwatch or on Plat Chat. It's like, you know, some people who do broadcast talent or even play, like hell, even the players, like some of the players get in because they want to travel and they want to compete at live tournaments, like on stage with fans, etc. It's not as fun if you're just sitting around online, joining a lobby, sitting in TeamSpeak with your teammates. Like, this applies to everyone. We all want more live events, but I do think that there is a middle ground where it's like, we can't have every Overwatch League match played in person. I don't think that's as sustainable economically.
Yes, and that's what it comes down to as well, is it's the financial landscape for esports is changing. When fans think about esports, they don't really realize the finances behind it, but esports has essentially been a massive investment for the future from the very early stages, where people are losing a shit ton of money to run big events or to have big organizations involved or whatever, and the monetization comes down the road. It's like it's been one big startup company for years and years, where maybe small portions of esports the organizations try to be profitable, but in a general sense, there's just a lot of venture capital being dumped into the scene in order to reap rewards later on once it gets big enough that you can monetize it effectively. And I feel like we're getting to the point where people are starting to really heavily think about the monetization and the sustainability of it, rather than just trying to grow. Like at some point, once you've done the growing, you have to turn a profit back. You have to see a return on the investment that you've put in. And across esports right now, I'm seeing more and more people thinking, how do we pivot into a way that gives us some additional revenue or cuts the costs while still having that growth or keeping the viewership the same. And I think a lot of people we're going to return to a lot of online play because it's way cheaper to run. I mean, like, League's cheaper to run. People have no idea how much it costs for an event space to just run a big live event, or the Blizzard Arena was really expensive.
I would not be surprised if, like, I mean, I don't think it's controversial at this point. I would not be surprised if, like, we saved money by, like, running online last year compared to, like, holding all those homestands with the teams, etc. Like, you know, financially, you know, I'm sure everyone was excited to, like, hold so many homestands, etc. But, like, I would not be surprised if, like, we saved money by just, like, doing it online and, you know, doing all that stuff.
And I think a lot of people, I've seen this sentiment in the scene being like, well, if the Overwatch League isn't going to do home and away broadcasts and sell tickets all the time, then how are the orgs ever going to make revenue? But that fundamentally misunderstands the way that sports business works. You don't make most of your revenue as a team through ticket sales for events. Events are expensive to run, and ticket prices often don't even get that back. It's about putting on the broadcast and profiting from the brand awareness and, like, the eyeballs on the product as well. Ticket prices might be a portion of that, but if you look at how sports works, the vast majority of it comes from, like, broadcast rights and sponsorships which in itself is fed from eyeballs. So if you can keep viewership high whilst minimizing cost, you actually can still get sustainable business. You don't need the homestand model. The homestand model was like, wouldn't it be cool if we did something that no one else had accomplished before? It was wildly ambitious. So it's going to be a really interesting time moving forwards for not just Overwatch, but a lot of different esports. But I mean, because I'm inside the Overwatch scene, it's the one that I'm most interested in.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely nailed it there. I mean, we're about to wrap this up, but I have a few more things to say. You definitely nailed it there with the broadcast rights, right? Because if you go entirely online, and like most of it is online, naturally it will be less hype than in-person tournament events, etc. Like, you just think back to like some of the CSGO majors, like in person. They're just way more hype. They're so damn cool, and it naturally brings more hype. I don't think you can argue with that. So, you know, if you just run most of it online, then viewership probably going to decline. That means cheaper broadcast rights and revenue deals, which means less money for the teams. So you definitely, it's in everyone's best interest to strike a balance where like you maintain that hype, grow the brand of Overwatch League so you can get more money, and more money returns to the investors. So like, I don't think it's all just like, well, you know, just cut all the costs and we'll be like financially viable. It's like, no, you need to strike, like you need to strike, they're like, I don't know what the saying is.
Yeah,
strike the difference, you know, where it helps everyone. Yeah. So it is complicated, and I hope they reach a good conclusion.
And of course, depending on the success of Overwatch 2, a lot of these plans could change. Because if Overwatch 2 blows up and it's the biggest game in the entire world, then you're going to want to do more shit. But in a more reasonable sense, if it's like moderately successful on the global scale, you might want to scale up a little bit. If it does worse than expected, you might want to keep things at the same level. A lot of things can be changed in the future. I mean, Activision Blizzard Esports laid off, or was it Activision Blizzard themselves, not the esports department, laid off a bunch of people like a year or two ago, and then hired back a bunch of people a year later as well. Yeah. And there was like a bunch of confusion around why they even did that in the first place. But I think it was to do with a company restructuring or something.
I don't know the exact specifics of it. But I mean, just to reiterate your previous point as well, and what Mitch was saying during the video, like I really hope the live events come back. It was literally my lifeline. And last year fucking sucked. Like literally walking into a tiny room and just speaking into the void was not very fun. It wasn't a reason that I personally got into doing esports.
I still need to release those secret videos. I say secret videos. When I was tearing down the PC, I think I was just sending some files off or whatever to Overwatch for when we did recordings for the MVPs. Right. I found some test videos from when we first got the PC.
Wait, really?
Yeah, and I was like, I'm going to save these. I'm going to use them for later somehow. And I've got 3 videos of when you were testing the setup, but the audio was just scuffed. Like, it was so bad. And it was just you. And there was Jake as well. And like, Kurt was kind of there too. And it was just you going in a really like deep, muffled voice, this is the test for the audio. It just looks so stupid. I got to put those on Twitter or something. I was going to use them, but I'll probably just whack them on Twitter this week. They are so stupid. My God, I was like, man, just you thinking about like going into that small room, because it's interesting how obviously we had that spare room in the house, but that became such an integral part of like the Overwatch League broadcast, because there were so many of us in that house.
Yeah, that one
that were on Overwatch League. That one small room, like it wasn't that big, and it was a struggle to get the big banner up and stuff.
Yeah, and that's where me, you, Jake all broadcasted from. I mean, when Custer was living with us as well, he was upstairs.
Yeah, like it's to me, it's kind of nuts to think about, like us doing going from the live events to them being in that very small room where the air conditioning didn't really work and it was really hot and stuffy, and we had that really janky desk, and then we're like a box for one of the monitors to stand up, and I'm like, man, this is
I mean,
terrible.
it just wasn't it wasn't the reason.
Jaws' first taste of the big time as well after casting Contenders.
Oh, it felt real good, man. Felt real cool. Although I will say, when we did the homestands for the first few weeks, my God, like I think New York, I always kind of say this when someone asked me like, "Oh, what's your favorite cast of Overwatch or like all time, whatever?" I was like, probably the New York homestand, which is the first one I did. I was mega nervous jumping on that stage, man. And with Mitch and Matt, obviously too. I calmed my nerves a little bit, like, having the big dogs here with me, but at the same time, I'm like getting up there. Damn, I'm like shitting myself, and you're always going to mess up your first time when you're doing that kind of stuff. And I've been on big stages before, not in like tier 1 products, but like I've done big things in like I did Vainglory World Championships in Singapore. I did the finals for that. It was in this big like theater, which was sick. And I've done like big live events before, but having it being Overwatch, a game I really do love, and getting up there, I was like, I'm going to mess this up somehow, but it was like an absolute blast. And then obviously as it rolled on, when we did Washington 2, that was super fun. And then instantly into COVID was a bit of a, oh man.
It's so
this
awesome.
fucking sucks. First year in it, baby, let's go. And we get hit with the fucking bullshit. And now I'm in this small room. Like, I think everybody did their best though. Oh, there it is. And there it is.
Wow.
This is one of the matches I did.
Yeah, it was great. Can I just say before... There he is. Wow, look at him. So full of passion.
God, I got more
ambition,
jacked as time went on, didn't I? Christ.
Got
I'm like a
more
Hulk
jacked
compared
as
to
time
that
went
previous
on.
body.
Are you bigger than that now?
Oh, I'm humongous. You haven't seen me, Josh. You haven't seen me in about a year, I don't think. I'm jacked, actually shredded.
Yeah. Just
what were you going to say, Johnny?
No, I just wanted to say before we left the topic that, we talked a lot about the aspirations and future vision of the league, etc. But just like about the layoffs, it's very incredibly sad. And like as I mentioned before, like we all know people within the company who got laid off, lost their job, just like showed up to work and just like, sorry, you're not working here anymore. And especially it's really tough. We're at the tail end of the pandemic, I'd like to say. Like more and more vaccines are being shown to bodies every day, which is good. So hopefully by summer or fall, like we'll sort of be back to normal. But still, we are in a pandemic, and like people losing their jobs is obviously very sad. We all know someone who lost their job. We wish them all the best. I would say that a lot of people have gone out on Twitter and like posted if they got laid off and like they're looking for jobs. And these are people with very good skills, good resumes, and are good at what they do. So if you're hiring, like, I don't know who's listening to this podcast, but if you're hiring or like you want to spread the word, please check some of those people out on Twitter and like spread the word, help them get a job and help them get some money. For example, I know one example who, lost his job and like he had two new kids this past year. So that's super tough, right? So I wish that he gets a job quickly and as well as everyone else. So it's tough.
Yeah. Let's move to the final topic then of the night. It's not night time, but I mean, it might be night time if you're watching it.
I actually wanted to interrupt your introduction of Bren's Player of the Week.
Oh God!
Because hello, that went all purple. There. That was lovely.
That's cool.
Because someone on Reddit did a compilation of all of your Player of the Weeks.
I know.
Oh,
and they were going to be the follow-up, the run-up to it. So that was the.
Oh, you ruined it!
But no, that's okay. I mean,
Josh.
it's a good way to bring it up because I've got it up here.
Oh, good. No, go for it.
They came
go
into
for
my
it.
chat the other night, and they have made a complete list of all the Player of the Weeks of every episode with a bunch of other stuff. Why? The reasoning.
Did everyone like
that?
it? I love
really.
the column. Did everyone like that?
Was it Overwatch related? Yeah. And you can see the standings. There's a standings page as well. So thank you, Archer on the Beach, as well for making this.
Let's take a look at this. So leaderboard, top of the leaderboard.
Yep.
The scientific community.
I mean,
in some form.
Can you blame me?
Unbelievable.
I don't think so. The scientific community is doing so much for us.
So, but you have given it more to the Owl players than any other group. You're giving it to 19 Owl players,
Which is a miracle. An actual miracle.
You think so?
I don't know how you've given it to 12 talent because I don't even think we employ 12 talent, do we?
No, there's multiple
I
times.
got it twice.
Right? Oh, right.
I got it
Some
twice.
people got it
minimum.
twice.
And Zoe.
And then 9 non-human winners.
Yeah, I don't.
I gave it to a meme once. I remember. I
Yeah,
gave
you
it
had
to
Gibraltar.
Gibraltar.
Given to a meme,
Classic
given
one,
to the
actually,
scientific
classic.
community 5 times, given to the Gloucester
That's a
Rugby
good
Club.
one.
Yep.
presumably multiple
Listen,
others.
the player of the week
All stars.
It's my little thing, and it evolves over time, and, and it has changes, and it we went from a big period of time where I'm reading a lot of scientific articles, so the scientific community got it a lot, and then there was that. Then you can tell the point of time where I've stopped looking at social media because no one from Overwatch got it from that point on.
Yeah, I did love that actually.
So now I've had to start getting like my Discord community to send me suggestions because otherwise I'm lost.
God.
I'm empty, head empty. But this week it is going to be going to our first ever 3-time winner, Zoe Schwint, for the recent charity stream she did, I believe, for the Gamers Outreach. And I think she raised over $10,000. $10,000, $10,620 for the Gamers Outreach this weekend with her stream. So Zoe, congratulations on the 3-time award now. Currently leading in the standings, actually just below the scientific community, but I'm sure at some point you will catch up. It's only a matter of time. But yeah, well done to Zoe for these charity streams. Big, honestly, big proponent for using your platform in any sort of beneficial way, which she did here, raising a bunch of money.
Very good.
Yep.
Nearly as good as the entire scientific community just on her own.
Yes, close.
The combination, in fact, of Zoe and Achilles is equally as good as the entire scientific community so far.
Yep.
At this point, I feel like the scientific community deserves it more.
Well, the scientific community's done a lot of cool stuff.
I think they've done a lot over the past 2,000 years, but
yeah, but I mean, it's a weekly thing. Who knows? Maybe next week they'll get it.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Maybe
they're
next
looking. Who
week.
represents the scientific community?
Can my shrimp get it? They just had babies.
Shrimp?
No.
Shrimp. Yeah, my little blue dream
No.
shrimp just had babies.
If you have a baby, we'll give it to you.
Yeah.
We gave it to Mitch when
We
he
gave
had a
it to
kid.
Mitch when he had a kid.
Probably should have given it to Ash, really. She did
I
the hard
gave
work.
it to both.
Yeah,
Oh, right,
that's
okay.
probably would have been a better idea.
Yeah.
Well,
Jaws.
I can't imagine I'm going to do that anytime soon. But
No?
Well, you
I'll
never
keep it
know.
in
Life
mind.
comes at you fast.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. We'll
Some other
catch
things
back in
come
about a
fast
year
as
and we'll
well,
see.
but-
Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, thanks for watching episode 79 of Plat Chat Overwatch, everybody. I hope you enjoyed your stay. If you did enjoy your stay, make sure you follow our podcast channel.
What comment do they have to write?
They have to write if you could invent one flavor of ice cream that doesn't currently exist, what would it be and why?
There's a lot of flavors of ice cream out there.
Okay, but if it does exist, then just tell me what your favorite is.
That's a lot less creative.
But if there is one you want and you think, wow, that'll be really good, then yeah, put it up. And
Ham and pineapple pizza ice cream.
that sounds horrible. And we'll see you next time. Thank you very much for watching. Wait, team previews are coming as well soon. I don't know, Thursday,
Yeah.
Saturday. Yeah. See you then.